allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Don't label us left or right.
We are American.
Not looking for a war, but we came to fight.
We are American.
Somebody's gotta stand up.
Stand up.
Somebody's gotta do what's right. We're rising cause we're fed up. Got our house in order and got yours in sight.
Well, we're back. Sovereign Minds, Part 2. Today is actually January 3rd. And the title of this one's going to be Millionaires and Billionaires, because we kind of wanted to talk about this before we get to the rest of the show.
Yeah, we hit on the money a little bit on the last one, but now we want to kind of dive deeper into it.
So I wanted to get this out there because there's so much scuttlebutt and mudslinging and everything else going on out there as far as this money and that, you know, the recall was number one financed by a millionaire from out of state. You know, everybody knows who we're talking about, you know, Anselmo. And I took a little bit of umbrance to that because the recall was not financed at all, maybe a very small chunk. I don't know all the numbers exactly. My sister probably does.
Pretty close.
But the thing is that the recall was financed by us doing fundraisers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, the recall folks, and you know, this was stay-at-home moms and grandmas and business owners, and there were hundreds of people involved in the recall, and it was absolutely a grassroots effort. They did over 3 different fundraisers and generated over $150,000, which was the amount it took to do mailers and TV and radio and petitions. They sent out 3 official petitions, and so they raised that money all on their own. And they did that through the community, and hundreds of people donated in on that. Now, it was true that Mr. Breverge Anselmo did donate them $50,000, which they didn't use towards anything towards the recall. So, you know, in fact, when Mike Mangus did that report and I talked to him afterwards, I said, Mike, you really did a disservice when you come out with that.
That's a shocker.
Yeah, it's a shock. And I said, you know, these people worked hard, you know, all summer raising money, getting signatures.
Not getting signatures. Yeah. I mean, I know personally, me and my sister walked a lot of precincts.
Yeah, we did.
You know, drove around through that whole burnout area up there, up in Keswick. And
the lion's share of the money came here locally, and
the lion's share of work and effort
all came locally.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and you guys worked hard. You did every people did everything they knew how to do. It is not easy to get a recall of this size going forward.
Well, I'll tell you, we learned a ton of things about organization and skill
what
and
to do, what
allocation.
Not to do. Yeah.
You know, people were jumping into slots like, you know, my sister, she knows how to do a lot of bookkeeping stuff.
And to complicate everything, it was the worst air quality I've seen in my entire life this last summer.
Yeah, we had like 34 days.
It was awful. You know, we had a system, just so everybody can picture this, in my van, that we would load people in the back and the front, and when we were running out Keswick, I would run out and the doors would open because automatic doors would open. These people would run out, go get the signatures, come back in. We'd shut the doors. We're back in the air conditioner.
Yeah,
you know,
we do like a hop skip.
We do
hop
skip by blocks. Just because it was.
I mean, it made a big difference. It was much more difficult to do.
I would never do a recall in Reading in the summer ever again.
I was going to say, not just the smoke,
but I mean,
we had the heat to
We've
deal
had
with.
fires in the past, and we've had some pretty big fires, but we never had where every fire in the general area, the smoke blew into the valley.
Yes.
Constantly.
Well, you had the biggest fire in California history. I mean, the Dixie Fire it's 1 million acres.
Right, but I mean, there was smoke coming down from Oregon, smoke coming in from Trinity County, smoke coming in from
that was just
Madison County. Right. I mean, so it was really a a tough situation, and through it all, you still got signatures for Leonard Modi. And, so while Mr. Anselmo, and we're friends, he came here to Shasta County to build a dream in an area that he saw a lot of conservative ideas, and that's why he came here. Now he's not a billionaire; he's a millionaire.
Oh,
right, and he does have millions of dollars. But he could have gone anywhere in the world, but he chose to come here because he liked the people and he liked the conservative values, and so the Shasta General Purpose Committee was formed here to support conservative ideas and conservative candidates. And, the reality is Leonard Modi, he says he's a conservative, so he should support the Shasta General Purpose Committee because it is all about conservative ideas.
If he was actually a conservative, we would support him.
Correct.
But he's not. It's all mouth, And I even posted a meme that shows one of his supporters. We love our soups, Chimenti, Modi, and Rickards. And, behind him is the pictures of him, talking about setting fires on I-5 and stealing food from the store. Pictures of him up on the chop zone in Seattle. He's Antifa. I mean,
no, wait a second. 2 cops and a rancher. It doesn't get more conservative than that, does it?
Well,
but
why is he being supported by all the leftists then?
Right, and your positions, whatever your occupations are, does not describe whether you're conservative or not. And if you have to say you're conservative, you're
probably
not.
aren't.
You're not.
Well, they've been
Your
playing this
actions-
game for a long time across the board. I mean, we've seen. Liz Cheney. You could go on and on and on.
Now the reality
Mitt
is
Romney is the other.
why we have a friend that is a millionaire. Our opponents, Shasta Forward, are supported by billionaires. Billionaires.
Oh, that's new information.
And so they don't talk about that. And these billionaires have been involved in politics for a long time, affecting many different races and affecting things that happen in Sacramento for a long time. So they have a lot of influence and they have spent a lot of money. Now that they have something...
do we know who we're talking about?
I think we do.
I think everybody kind of knows.
And so
I must be the only one. I don't know who we're talking about.
But they make a big deal out of the Shasta General Purpose Committee and some money that has come in. But the reality is that these other people have far, far more money and have been influencing things here in Shasta County for a long, long time. Now they have some opposition. And they have some opposition that is organized, that is smart, that is caring, and that is conservative. And that's the difference.
Well, so all they can do is try to smear us. That's where it comes down. That's what the whole Carlos thing was about. The guy wasn't even on the recall committee. He wasn't even involved in the recall. I don't know if he did anything for the recall.
Right.
I
And
agree.
the committee isn't just formed for the recall.
Now,
like
he's
Patrick hit on
Right.
earlier. It's not just a recall. It's the whole movement. It's the whole county.
Right.
It's the whole process.
Now,
that
he
we're trying
supported
to-
the recall as far as, I support you guys, but we didn't receive any actual support. I don't think there was any money. He wasn't a member. He didn't do any of the
Right.
precincts. He
Right.
didn't, we didn't get any donations, but they attacked him to associate him with the recall. And that was the whole thing, was to smear
Right.
him to try to smear the recall.
Yeah.
And I think you'll find what's going to happen on February 1st, if, this is my opinion, if Leonard Modi is recalled, and I believe he will be, I don't think he's going to be the last one. Meaning, I know there are other races coming up here later
Right.
this year, but what it shows is grassroots and a lot of people can get things done.
Can make a difference.
And so once they see the fruits of their labor being successful,
Right.
I think that's going to motivate thousands of people.
I think it already kind of is.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can see the movement around.
Well, everywhere.
areas, yeah.
Across the nation,
Yeah.
the recalls. We may be not responsible for all of that, but I know personally that being the tip of the spear up here in California, I've got another buddy of mine down in Nevada County right now, and they're doing a recall.
Well, and there was a lot of work with these folks, did a lot of work, and but it shows that we can do a lot of work.
Yes.
That we are tough and we can work and we can surprise ourselves just how much more work we can do. I remember when I was in college and working full time and going to college, and every day I was doing more hours, and I was shocking myself as to how much I could do if I applied myself. But you got to
Right.
start. Once you start, you can see that each person is very powerful. And I tell you, there's not much more powerful than these mama bears and papa bears.
I agree.
Well, when we were out getting signatures to what you're saying, people were really getting into it. Oh, I did 50 yesterday. I can do 100
became
today.
almost a
it
competition, you know,
it became
yeah.
a competition with different groups. I got more than you did, you know. So
Yeah, it was a competition. There was no
really
question,
got
yeah.
people motivated,
Yeah.
like you say.
Well, there
With
and then it
yeah.
also got to the grind right there towards the end, especially to grind it out. It became we're going to grind this out no matter what. Because of the smoke, because of the heat, because one of the things that I found in the
I mean,
district.
it took till every last day. I mean,
Yes.
you
Yes,
guys
it
had
did.
you didn't have a day to spare.
No.
And we needed every one of those signatures. And a lot of signatures, because I know you guys got at least 6,000, maybe more. And for those that were thrown out, they were usually just small technicalities where a person didn't know how they signed, middle name, no middle name. A lot of things like that would invalidate a signature, and still through it all, you got the valid number of signatures to push forward on a constitutional recall election. And I think we will make history here in Shasta County, and I think it's an opportunity for the public to finally say we can change, and here's a way to do it. I know when this kind of first started, I had won my primary back in March of 2020, but I was not elected yet. I still had to win in November, which was a big challenge. I talked to one of the producers from the Red, White, and Blueprint, and the recall was starting to pick steam up, and I'd asked him, "Are you going to help get signatures?" And he said, "No, he's going to document what's happening."
Sure.
And I thought, oh, okay, I guess that sounds pretty good. I don't see a lot of value in that, but hey,
I think there is actually though.
well, what I learned was tremendous value by
Right.
getting messages out. I think that's really been our biggest problem over a long time, is that we're not getting anything in the news and in the paper.
They
or
have been
We have to-
censoring us. That's one of my biggest gripes with Mike Mangus personally. I mean, I want to, I get so mad because they twist, they turn, they misreport, they pick
Or
and
they
choose,
don't
they
report
cherry
at
pick. And it's
Yeah.
not just once.
Right.
Every single story I've ever been involved with that jerk has been biased to the point of not reporting the truth at all.
Well, and it was just like a year ago this week, my first day on the job. I did not want to do a virtual meeting. There was no reason for me to do a virtual meeting. And so when I went to the Board of Supervisors at 1450 Court Street, I used my key, and Les Bois was there, and we opened the building.
Right.
And an article in the LA Times came out saying people rushed the chambers. Right.
Stormed.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? You couldn't be more
Kind of like
misleading.
the insurrection.
Exactly. And hey, I was there, and we opened the door, invited
Right.
people to come into their building to have a meeting, a public meeting, the way they're supposed to be. And so they totally lied to 40 million people here in California.
Right.
And then I started thinking about what was said about what happened in Washington, D.C. And so then I started thinking that, you know what, unless you were there,
You don't know.
probably don't know
You
what
don't know
happened.
because
Exactly.
they lie about everything. I mean, and I've watched lie after lie after lie on everything we've done here. That's why the Red, White, and Blueprint is so important, because it's being documented.
I talked to the reporter from the LA Times and said, I'm here and I'm going to open the doors. This is a public building. There's no reason that we can't. It's agendized for this location. I'm going to open up the building. She had the chance to report a true story.
But they don't.
But they didn't.
No.
And they printed something totally bizarre and lying. And it's unfortunate that...
See, we saw this
Yeah.
when the Tea Party, way back in like 2008, when we started getting together on the Tea Party. And
It
doing
was the
stuff.
same thing.
Right.
Oh, man,
Yep, exactly.
AstroTurf.
Over
They
and over
used their
again.
attack dogs in the IRS to go after the 501c3. They lied at every level locally. Every time I had an interview with a reporter, it was like... That's not what we talked about.
Yeah.
Or that was twisted. That's why I will not do an interview with Mike Mangus. I will not even talk to that SOB because that's what he is. He's an SOB.
You know, and the sad part is when you do not have a quality, truthful reporting system. And, you know, Record Searchlight years ago was pretty good. I remember Scott Mobley was pretty darn good. And we didn't always agree eye to eye, but it was far better than what we saw today. And he would get to the truth many times compared to what's happening today.
Right.
But by not having that today, it allows corruption to run freely. And
Absolutely.
And that is
There's
a
no
big
check.
issue. There's no check here because you don't have somebody that's going to dig and really get to the truth.
Well, that's been the problem with the voting block in this county in general, is that people out there have been getting misinformation for a long time. They're starting to understand that when Trump came out and said, "You guys are fake news," that was like, wow, the president saying it, and that has trickled down, and that's why you have the citizen journalism, and we
people questioning
that's
what's
right,
going on in the community where we weren't doing it before. We just took it for granted, whatever they put out there. That,
I'm a business
hey,
consultant. I don't do radio and podcasts. Right. Well, I do now.
Ha.
And that's the same for a lot of people. We've jumped into the arena because the press, is very important on the freedom of speech issue.
And so I think moving forward, after watching the Red, White, and Blueprint and their episodes and whatever else, I think we're going to have to involve ourselves in a way to do that, to get information out to the public because
Right.
they're hungry
It is
for
up
it.
to us, yeah.
They want good leaders. They want the county to be ran well. They want the city to be ran well. They want our country to be ran well, but they want the truth. And I think it's if we can do that, not only are we going to be better for it, but we're going to be free.
Right.
Which is what everybody in my opinion, in this last 2 years, it's the issue of freedom is being lost right in front of our eyes, and it's an information battle.
Absolutely.
And we have not engaged in it before, but now I can see that information is a key, and getting information out, letting the public decide, give them the information, let them decide how they feel on a particular issue. And so I'm excited about 2022. I think we have a lot of opportunity there, and I think we're going to see changes not only on my board, but school boards and elsewhere.
already happening.
It's
Yeah.
already starting to see that.
Yeah.
And in other counties, we both of us have talked to Cal over in the Grass Valley area, and they're working on it, and others as well. And so I'm looking forward to it. And it's not. People sometimes said, they've given me a lot of nicknames. I'm sure I got a few this year.
I haven't heard it. I guess I'm in the wrong circles because I haven't heard any. But if there is some out there, I'd like to know what they are because you never know when you might need to use one.
I've been called a few
Blackmail.
things, but the reality is that I care about our city and our county and the cities within the county. I'm not planning on moving. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to run from this fight.
I don't think there's any place to run to.
I don't think so, and I'm not going to, even if there was, because within a day's drive, you do pick up a lot of liberty. But like a disease, if you don't deal with it at its source, it will spread.
Well, and
But
I think that's. I'm sorry. I didn't
That's
mean-
okay. I was going to say, but I think if we do the truth and get it out like you're saying, it's going to make all the difference in the world with all the people that are being engaged in what happens in our community
Well,
because of it.
It's all about local elections.
That's what
but
I'm saying.
state- and
Yeah,
then-
people are getting engaged. They're going to the school boards.
Yep.
They're going, hey, I didn't know that. And if they know the truth, like about what Patrick is bringing forward, whether it's the pensions or whatever, and they go, well, wow, really?
Speaking
So-
of voting, the Dominion voting machine.
Must be
Oh,
reading
yes.
must be reading my mind. I was only going to add one thing to the
sorry.
to the state, local, and so forth elections is that I think talking real briefly about the state of Jefferson, I have pulled back from that a little bit because I don't see us having a chance of getting that done unless we turn over the Congress. Well, we're starting to see that is now in the sights. If we can turn over the Congress and get a majority, we can bypass this.
If our votes count.
Right.
Yes, we can bypass
Yeah.
Sacramento because they are so off the charts, out of control, that we might actually get a state formed out of this at the end of the day, which would be great.
Yeah.
So last year, I asked for a meeting with a representative from the Dominion voting machine to come forward and explain to me how he can restore or she could restore my trust in the Dominion voting machines. Half the country, half the people in the United States do not trust our cycle, and that is a
Right.
serious problem.
There's a ton of evidence to show that there is a problem that has been censored at every level.
Well, and I need to be shown that I want to trust things. I want to trust people, and I don't mind trusting machines, but I need to be shown that
How
they
it
cannot
works.
be manipulated. They did not convince me or try or even attempt to show that these machines can't be manipulated. Now, recently we found out. So this was a contract, a lease agreement that we're going to renew, and it was $2.4 million, something like that, over $2 million lease agreement. The Board of Supervisors supported that. I voted no. Leonard Modi, for example, voted yes to support the renewal, the lease agreement with the Dominion voting machine. Then we also found recently that a representative from Dominion Voting Inc. gave money to Leonard Modi's campaign. Imagine
Oh, that's
Wow.
that's kind of convenient. See, this whole thing stinks of the. It's just like foreign aid at the federal level. They throw foreign aid not because they care about the country and the foreign aid, but they all get kickbacks from these places. You know,
So
same thing on the voting.
it's just super disappointing. Now, it wasn't the hugest amount of money, I will say that, but it's just the fact that why would you take money from somebody that works at Dominion when we just approved over a $2 million contract? And there's a lot of people that have issue with this trust.
I think it's because it's an in-your-face issue. I think it's like, see, I can do whatever I want, and you can't do a goddamn thing about it. That's what I think.
Well, it was
We've seen it over and over
very
again.
disappointing. And so, we fast forward to today, and in less than a month, we're going to have an election. And we're
Yep.
right back at the same problem. Are we going to trust those results? And I really hate that. I want to be able to trust. And it's not so much the office that I have a problem with, the Register of Voters office and the people that work there. I think they're good people. But we have a machine that could be manipulated, and that, to me, is unacceptable. And we have to fix that.
Well,
Well-
and we talked to Kathy Darling. What's her full
Allen.
name? Allen, thank you.
Kathy Darling.
And about voter ID, and she wouldn't even commit to the fact that she thought it
Well,
was a good
yeah,
thing.
she said, no,
so I
no
don't
way.
really trust her at all. I don't dislike her. I think she's a nice person, but I don't trust her judgment in this particular area.
And you're correct, Mark. It's true that you can take a ballot, go right down to the Register of Voters office and submit it, and they will not check for your ID. Now, that is corruption.
Yeah.
And we have to do better than that.
Right.
And if we can't do better than that, then this lingering problem of trust is going to continue to be there. And the only way to fix it is to fix the office then,
I agree.
if that's going to continue. I never had issues of trust in the past with the ROV and these machines, but it was partially because I did not understand these machines and how they could be manipulated. And for a lot of us, that is a real concern.
Now, my understanding is that the ROV is the one that says whether they use the machines or not the Board of Supervisors.
No, that's actually so. While the ROV, she likes the machines, she defends the machines. This contract was renewed 4 out of 5 renewed that contract. So
Right.
if the Board of Supervisors did not renew that contract, we would have needed to go to some other machine.
Right.
So the board is responsible for that machine. We had the opportunity last month to stop using that machine.
I
They
lost
chose to use
I
it.
lost my trust in the Gary Catt election when we had to go down there and physically count the votes,
yeah,
and
we
he
counted
won
quite
by
a few.
9 votes. And I'll tell you what, if we had not been there, I would bet you dollars to donuts that Gary wouldn't have won.
I'll tell you a little story that happened to me in 2006. That was my 3rd time running for council. I'd lost 2 times before. In fact, I'd come in dead last. In 2006, the night of the election, I'd lost again. I'd came in 4th. I lost by 150 votes. But I did beat 2 candidates, so I was feeling a little bit good.
Right.
I'd beat somebody, and these were good candidates, so I was feeling pretty solid that, hey, in 2 years from now, I think I could probably pick up that seat. A couple of weeks went by, phone rang. It was Kathy Darling, and she said, "Hey, I got some good news for you. You won." I said, "Yeah, won what?" And she goes, "A seat,
Wow.
a seat on
election.
city council." And she goes, "You won by 150 votes." And I said, "Well, no, I lost
how
by
could you-
150."
yeah, what's the
She goes,
difference?
"Well, we still had thousands of votes to count, and it goes back and forth, and there was 300-point swing, and you won by 150." I said, "Exactly 150," and she said, "Yeah." I said, "All right." So swear-in was just a few weeks, so I better
That's
get
interesting. Exactly the same
Yeah.
number.
Exactly. Well, so I hang the phone up. About an hour later, phone rings again. I pick it up, and it's
By the way, you lost?
Kathy Darling calling me up, and she says, "Hey, it's okay, it's all right." And I said, "What?" And she goes, "You still won." And I said, "Oh, "Okay, what?" And she goes, "Well, we double counted one of the districts, but you've now won only by 89, but it's still okay." Okay. So I hang the phone up. So now I didn't want to answer the phone for the rest of the day because it's going the wrong way, right?
Yeah, you're going down, not up.
Now, clearly, humans are involved and mistakes can be made.
Sure.
But here we double counted. The question is, was it done on accident or was it done deliberately? Now, in those years, I was endorsed by police and fire and by the unions. And I really started thinking about that years later. And the reason why is because how I was treated by the ROV, fast forward 4 years, where I was no longer endorsed by police and fire and the unions. We had some pretty bitter labor disputes, and I was not treated the same. And it really started making me wonder, what happened in 2006. And so that was a story that happened. Mistakes can happen. The question was it honest or an actual mistake? And that is a true story. So we have some work to do in the ROV. Now, the good news is if anyone is interested in being in that position, that comes up in a June primary of this year. In fact, we've got a lot of things this June primary.
Yes, we do.
It
A
is
lot of offices.
going to be a busy year. We have 2 supervisors seats that are going to be open,
Right.
District 5 and District 1. We have superintendent of schools. We have the ROV. We have the district attorney. We have the sheriff, all done in June primaries. Instead of a March, it's a June primary. Now, if there's only 2 candidates in any given race, whoever the top vote getter is wins it outright. They won't take that position until later. But these primaries are very, very important.
Right.
And unfortunately, there tends to be a fairly low voter turnout because it's a primary.
Primary.
What's the big deal? It's a primary. And there's no president being or governor being, approved or disapproved. And so every vote will count. And so I think this summer is going to be a defining time for Shasta County. And I think there'll be more races being scrutinized
Right.
than ever before.
More actual involvement from
More
the voters.
involvement.
Well, yeah, I think that more of the people in the community are going to be stepping up for these offices too, because before we weren't aware of it, until the last minute. We're kind of getting out ahead, maybe a little bit as far as that is concerned.
Yeah, no, all that stuff won't happen until, February, March, where that'll start gearing up. Obviously, right now, what's in front of us is
The recall.
one more month of this recall, and all eyes will be on this, and candidates running their ads and letting people know about what they feel strongly about. And, for me personally, obviously, I live in District 4, and so I don't get a vote. And so the public should be aware if you live in District 1, 2, or not 2, you're okay, 1, 3, 4, and 5, you're not going to get a ballot in the mail.
Right.
So if you wonder why you're not get a vote and you're hearing all these ads, it's because you don't live in District 2.
I want to have
At the moment.
I want to have Eli pull up the couple of things. I want to show the agenda item. Or for tomorrow's agenda, I think everybody needs to go to the Board of Supervisors meeting. Starts at 9:00 down at the board chambers.
I'll be in the other building
If
probably.
you
at
can get that
jury
pulled
duty.
up here, and let's scroll down to C6, and it talks about in C6 about adopt a salary resolution effective January 16th, which amends the Shasta County salary schedule and classification specifications to follow, deletes the animal, blah, 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 and adopts the classification specification, increases the salary range for all of those people there. Now,
Starting, right about here.
yeah, so I think
the
you should
rest of
pull
the
that up. You can get it
lines.
out at the Shasta County Board of Supervisors website, meeting its agenda. You can look at it online. And let's go to the next deal of the Transparent California, of the salaries that are being so this is the salaries that are being paid right now before raises. This is and actually it's worse than this because this is 2020 and not 2021. So when you look at Karen Randstrom, Health and Human Services, and she's making $310,000 a year. That's with salary and benefits, and I think it's actually quite a bit more than that because I believe they got at least a 13 or what was it, 18% raise or something this last year. So that adds up to more. And you start looking and scroll down at all the people that are making over.
Too.
Donnell Ewert,
Yeah.
Pat Minturn, and we just keep going down. We don't even get under with salary and benefits under $200,000 for quite a little while. So, do they desperately need our money? Yeah, to pay their freaking salaries and benefits packages. Yeah. And it goes on for quite a while. Now, when I look at the Speaker of the House's benefits or wage package, and it's $223,000 or $243,000, I can't remember which, and I'm thinking, these guys are getting paid, some of them more than the Speaker of the House in Washington. How do you reconcile that?
They
just
have to do that. Don't you know that?
It's just tax money. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, Mark.
That's
Yeah.
how you get good people in those positions is you have to pay them that kind of money.
And
Don't
this goes
ask
on and
them.
on and on. And she's going to have some numbers for us in the next week or so
Yeah.
that shows the kind of, money that's being paid out to Health and Human Services. And they have to have this money because these guys are draining the county dry.
Well, and it's,
And
when
this
you,
is Shasta County.
I guess when you really look at these lists, and, and I don't mean to be hard on any one of these people, but, it is Shasta County. You know the median income here and what it is.
Yeah.
And when you see people at beyond six figures with a pretty high retirement, it's going to upset a lot of folks.
Right.
And I think over time, we're going to have to reevaluate a lot of these things.
Right.
In that, is that appropriate for here in Shasta County? And when you start looking down that list, you see a lot of money. And when I since I work in the private sector, and I think about tax dollars and how many items I have to sell or things that I have to fix or repair to create that kind of money, it is daunting. It is a lot of money.
I think you're hitting on a huge thing between the private sector and the public sector, is that in order for us to earn money, we have to produce.
Right.
And I've worked in the public sector as well as the private sector. I've always been in the Forest Service. I've worked for the city of San Mateo. I've been in the Army. I've been in a few civil service positions. And their incentive is to do less work. Everything is about doing less work and getting the same pay. Whereas over here in the private sector, everything is about producing more so you can make more money.
Right. But the private supports
it wouldn't bother
the other
me.
one.
Right.
It wouldn't bother
Yeah.
me so much if we didn't have the unfunded liability.
Right.
And we all were living better because of the actions of county employees.
Right.
And do we feel today, if you ask the average person today, are you better off today than, say, 20 years ago here in Shasta County? And I don't think you'd find a lot of people that would be positive on that. And so it's a reflection of what's happening.
Right. And it's not just Shasta County. There's a big picture. There's a big picture here
it's
too.
across
Now,
everywhere.
that is up to us as supervisors. We supervise this entire county.
Right.
And we have failed you.
Well, and just a couple of examples. The Second Amendment sanctuary, to say we want to be a sanctuary county. We've got Modi sitting there saying, on his campaign, I'm in favor of the Second Amendment, except you really aren't. And I'm in favor of free speech, but I'll lock you out of the
If Supervisor Modi
room.
was really favoring the Second Amendment, even if he didn't like the one resolution that was presented by the local chapter of the California Rifle and Pistol Association, he could have worked with them and simply come back with one that was appropriate. But instead, he
yes.
made a motion that we're going to put this to bed, is what he said
Right.
exactly, and we're never going to discuss it again. Well, how do you think the public is going to respond to that?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. It's the old rhino crap. I say I'm this,
Right.
but I'm really that. And that's the biggest problem I have with Modi. And I've seen it time after time after time. And you don't see this out there in the public unless you attend these meetings. You attend 10 or 15, 20 of these meetings every week.
It doesn't even take that many
Well,
to
it
see the
doesn't-
arrogance that he
Well,
is.
if you
putting
attend 20,
across.
you've been there the whole year because
because they only show up half the time.
Right,
Going to-
exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to end on this, a couple of things. The biggest thing that really, this last year that really struck me is why we need to have change in this county is when the supervisors locked everybody out and pulled the seats out of the boardroom. So when they let everybody back in,
They
There
had
was no place to sit.
Well, you know, I'm pretty good about taking plexiglass down, and I think I'm pretty good about putting seats back up. And I was planning on doing that, but that it did get fixed.
Well, they you couldn't even find them at first.
and then, of course, they took the seats out, and then they pass a resolution about decorum where you can't stand, but there was no seats. And
It's just
It
it's
was,
just a sophomoric, is what it is. It's
the
just
reality
unbelievable.
was this last year, we had a chairperson that really did not understand, one, the public, and be able to manage and control the boardroom appropriately.
Right.
And made many mistakes.
We might save Chimente for another day
and
because I
that-
think we're out of time. But
That was just a lack of experience.
Right.
And tomorrow we pick a new chair, so it ought to be exciting.
I didn't know
Oh.
that.
Yes.
That's
That's
good.
exciting.
Yeah, I wonder who that's going to be.
Should be Les Baugh. He's vice chair now, but it's up to the board.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for having me on.
that
Thanks
one.
for coming in.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Patrick. We appreciate it.
Another week gone by with Sovereign Minds, and we'll see you next week.
We'll be back
And,
next week
yeah,
and have some numbers probably for you, and we'll go from there.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
I guess I should end with my patented saying here. That I got to pull up here, but. We got to talk about hit the like button. Make sure you share the content. Smash the bell to get notifications. All of that good
And
stuff.
if you want to help us and donate to us, you can send it to 14421 Old Oregon Trail, Suite B, Redding,
we
California,
thank everybody for the-
96003.
And we thank everybody who has been donating
Yes.
because we have been receiving donations,
We have.
and it's really helped out a lot. Government is not reason; it is not eloquence. It is force like fire. It is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. We'll see
All
you
right,
next week.
next week.